I cannot emphasize enough to you all how much of my every waking moment in a day is spent thinking about Fernando Tatis Jr.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I'm your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes. On today's episode, the Padres sweep those silly folks in Minnesota, and the Twins. Casey Mize suffers an injury that has me a little bit worried, and the Tatis Merrill combo is taking this team to the promised land. But not before we discuss the usually less fun side of the Padres these days, which is the rotation. Not because they haven't been good, but because it's just not as fun to talk about Jackson Merrill and Tatis going absolutely nuts. Let's start first with Walker Buehler, though, on Sunday, going 6 innings, only allowing 1 earned run on 4 hits, didn't walk a single batter, 4 strikeouts, got a lot of ground balls when needed, got him produce some double plays. He looked great. He has gone 6 innings in each of his last 3 starts. We've talked about how he had that really rough stretch right after he had a great stretch this year. Now he's rocking a 4.63 ERA, which isn't incredible. Let's be very clear. It's not incredible. But for a team that just desperately needed a guy like this to throw innings, that's kind of what he's been this year. I've mentioned this a lot on the show, but it was from May 27th all the way to June 26th, he didn't give up more than 2 runs in a start. And if you go even before that, he was just a quality start machine. Right? He was really bad to start the year. He was rough. And then he entered this stretch where it was always 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 3. Nothing amazing, but he never killed you. And then he had a horrible stretch where at 4 innings he gave up 9 against the Cubs. Then 5 innings he gave up 7. And then 2 innings he gave up 4. Where he absolutely hit like a real rock. Not a rock, a wall. Just hit the wall and whatnot. Having a 3.81 ERA, then in getting it all the way back up to 5.36. Now it's down to 4.63. He's looked really solid. I just think that this is a guy that has found a way to be more effective, given that he can't use the strikeouts to rely on anymore, that his fastball isn't effective. He just uses such a variety of pitches that makes up for not having necessarily a put away whiff pitch that you could throw at batters and whatnot. Instead, he's a guy that you just never know what's coming, and he produces a lot of ground balls. And that's why I think he's been so effective. In quotes, I think he smells the postseason. I think internally that motivates him. That's what Craig Stammen said about Walker Buehler. I hope that that's the case because they're going to especially need him in this stretch run. And who knows, they might even use him in the postseason, depending on how the health of some of their other pitchers goes, which we'll talk about in a second. Next, though, Randy Vasquez. Another awesome start for him. He's having a slight renaissance lately after looking like he was dead. Like, he started off this year absolutely phenomenal, Randy Vasquez. We talked about it in spring training. That's how long we've been talking about Randy Vasquez, that he improved his spin rates. His velocity was up, all that sort of stuff. And then he proved correct. He was great to start this year. It was actually like one of the more fun storylines for the Padres. Started off the season just looking phenomenal. He had a 2.94 ERA in March and April, then a 3.71 in May. Oh my gosh, we have a guy. Then he produced a 7.84 in June and then a 4.5 in July. And we're like, oh my God, this is good. But in August, he has a 3.13 ERA and he's pitching a lot more innings lately. On Friday's game, 7 innings, only 2 earned runs on 2 hits, no walks, which is the big thing here, and 3 strikeouts. His sinker got hit a little bit hard, but fastball velocity, all that stuff was good. His cutter was up by 2.5 miles per hour, really good. And it was the first time he's gone 7 innings since April 21st. That's right. Randy Vasquez, maybe this, again, it could be a mental thing, but maybe there's something about having more pitching depth that is making the bar so much lower for Randy Vasquez to clear, and he's doing that. So both him and Walker Buehler, given the fact that we have the Michael King, Casey Mize, Robbie Ray triple front, and then hopefully you're getting one of Musgrove and Nick Pivetta to contribute soon too, especially I think in the case of the former of Musgrove. I'm wondering if that's affecting Randy Vasquez a little bit because he's having such a nice end to his season, just being, I'm going to keep saying it, a guy who could just throw innings, and it's just as simple as that. So shout out to Randy. Nice start for him. I don't know how much he'll keep it up, but overall, it's just nice to see that he really, I thought he was just done at one point. I thought the ride was over, but going 7 innings and producing that effectively and not walking any batters has me very, very excited. The last thing we got to talk about in terms of pitching, though, is Casey Mize, right? Casey Mize leaves Saturday's game early against the Twins after getting hit up pretty bad. In 2 2/3 innings, he gives up 4 earned runs on 4 hits, 3 home runs allowed. And folks, I'm not exaggerating when I say it looked like batting practice. Genuinely. He was having trouble. They come out to the mound and he says, no, I'm fine. He keeps going there. And it looks like he's laboring. And then batters are just teeing off on my guy. I'm honestly surprised that he only gave up 4 runs. Eventually gets taken out with what they are calling an ankle sprain, is what they're calling right now. I'm a little bit worried about this. And by little, I mean a lot worried. Because this is a guy who prior to the deadline, yes, while he was in Detroit this year, he was super effective and had been actually quietly more effective than Tarek Skubal. We've talked about his strengths ad nauseum, right? He's been a very good pitcher, but the big thing with him has always been health. And before the trade deadline, I talked with my guy Scott Bentley, who said he's looked really good. He's looked sharp. He's not walking anybody, but he said the velocity was a little bit down. And he's thinking, basically, maybe this is why they didn't get as many calls on him, because you would think that a guy who had a sub-3 ERA and was definitely going to be traded from this Detroit Tigers team, why wasn't he talked about more? This might be why. It's because of the velocity scare. I'm willing to attribute some of this to just he messed up his ankle, so that's why he wasn't throwing all that well. But it's not like his velo was looking great even before he got taken out and before they were talking about the ankle thing. So I'm a little bit worried about that. That being said, the first start he had with the Padres, the 11 days rest, that ended up being, or at least we think, an explanation for why he was so poor against the D-backs. And then the next 2 starts after that, he was really effective. Casey Mize, really, really effective. He goes 6 innings, only 2 runs, and then 6 innings, no runs against Milwaukee, who's a very good team, and then Cleveland. So I'm wondering if maybe we could explain it just like that, because that might be the thing. It might be the ankle sprain. Maybe it was throwing him off. Maybe he was hurt a little bit or feeling a little bit off after the first pitch or after early on. I don't know, but the decline in velocity and the overall injury stuff does make me a little bit worried. This is a guy that I like for the rest of this year. He's a guy that, because of how bad this next year's free agent class is probably going to be one of the top pitchers on the market. I don't know how I feel about that. I would much rather try and see if we could keep Michael King, frankly, who I think at his best is not currently showing me that he's better than what Casey Mize has been at his best this year, but I just feel a little bit better about his sustainability. A little bit worried about Casey Mize. And I also think it does say a lot. As I just mentioned, he did have those 2 good starts. Those were against Milwaukee, which is not a home run team, and then against Cleveland, who doesn't have a very good offense, and his 2 poor starts where he gets the D-backs, who have been hitting a lot better in the second half, and then the Twins, who haven't been very good this year, as evidenced by the sweep by your team, the Padres, but they do actually have a pretty decent offense. So really got to monitor this. I hope it's nothing a big deal. I hope it's just an ankle thing, but keep an eye on in his next start, his velocity. This is now more easily the most interesting thing going on with the Padres rotation is what's going on with Casey Mize. Is he healthy? Because they're really going to need him down the stretch, and especially come the postseason. But thankfully, guys, the Padres did get a sweep this series. And it wasn't just because the starting rotation would be good. It was also because, and usually early on in the year, it was just hoping it was pitching. Not this time. The offense shows up in a big way. And Fernando Tatis Jr., this man is just heading for I don't even know what he's heading for. Just God status once again amongst Padres fans. But first, let me take a second to talk to you about Odoo, because running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them even talk to each other. And that's where Odoo comes in. It's an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. You got to be organized. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best orgs are all about that. They love being organized, and they know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. Being organized, it counts so much. The same way it goes for sports, right? You got to make sure that everything's on the same brand. It's not just being like, oh, wait, we got a couple stars, let's just rock and roll. No, everybody's got to be on the same page. You got to have the right staff. You got to have the right coaching, the right strategy, everything. It ain't easy. But Odoo is here to make it easier for you. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's Odoo, ODOO.com/lockedon. And we're back, everyone, thriving and vibing here at Locked On Padres podcast. Feel free to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow me on Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiipeno. Let's talk now about the offense. Fernando Tatis Jr. is the first thing we got to talk about. Absolutely nutty weekend. Continues to be one of the best players in baseball. Third best WRC plus in August. And frankly, just one of the best players in general. I think basically for a while now, right? Ever since he hit that first home run, he's been on a tear. But now, he's been more than just on a tear lately, right? Ever since the home run, it was like, okay, he's doing good. He's doing what he was doing last year, which is a very good bat. But now he's going absolutely freaking insane, man. And this weekend, on Friday, what does he do? What does our guy do to start off this weekend series that they know they're going to need? Folks, what does he do? Comes up big, 3 for 4 with a double and an RBI. On Saturday, 2 for 5 with an RBI, in which the Padres had a huge comeback, by the way, which we haven't mentioned. Huge comeback win on Saturday, despite Casey Mize going down. This team just doesn't quit, man. Saturday, 2 for 5 with an RBI. And then Sunday, the supernova is in effect. 4 for 5 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, and a stolen base to boot. He is tied with Pete Crow Armstrong for the most home runs this month with 9. Again, since his first home run, for the next 2 months after that, Tatis was just very good. But this last month, in August, has made me think that the 2021 version of Fernando Tatis Jr. is back. He has a 200 WRC plus in the month of August. And in general, in the second half, he has a 196 WRC plus. He's slugging the heck out of the ball. When he hits home runs, it isn't like these soft line drives that maybe it depends on the ballpark. That was more of the case last year, and it was especially the case, obviously, to start this year. Now he just looks all the way back in. He's lifting the ball a lot more. He has a more spread stance. He's not having swings, outside swings. He's just more patient at the plate. He genuinely looks like the 2021 version of himself. I'm not just saying that, guys. I'm really not, and I'm not trying to get everyone's hopes up. I don't think he's going to be able to hit 40 home runs this year because we're really late and he took a while. But the fact that I think he's probably going to end the season with the same amount of home runs as last year, considering that he didn't do anything until May, I think speaks to just how good he's been. In terms of WRC plus in general, in the second half, he is number 1 in Major League Baseball. Pete Alonso, Yordan Alvarez, Alejandro Kirk, Wilson Contreras, Bregman, Pete Crow Armstrong. Those are some other players behind him. And in terms of WAR, he's only second behind Pete Crow Armstrong. He's produced 2.3 in the second half so far. The expected weight on base is excellent. He has, in the second half, guys, a 476 expected weight on base. It's not a fluke what he's doing. You've been watching the games. His home runs are titanic blasts. He looks like 2021 version Tatis. And I know a lot of people for years have been on Padres fans say it's never coming back. He was juicing. Well, I think that one of the problems with that conversation was always, and I talked about this with Arm Layton back when he was doing poorly, back in May, when I was talking with Arm and the fact that he couldn't hit any home runs, all that stuff. And we were both like, look, with Tatis, first of all, there's a bunch of different reasons why I think these past few years he struggled. Number 1, progression isn't linear. I love saying this a lot. But just because a young player starts off great does not mean by default they're going to get better, and also that they will just stay at that level. Sometimes they'll go a little bit up and down. Jackson Merrill is a great example. Right? Second year gets hurt, a little bit inconsistent, and then this past year of 2026, he was horrible in the the first half. Now he's all of a sudden awakened, and we'll talk about him in a second, but that could be a reason. The next thing is he still hits the ball super hard. Even the years when he was just a 130, 118 WRC plus guy, he was still hitting the ball harder than anybody, right? And steroid, you would think that would make you stronger and whatnot, hit you more home runs, right? Well, the exit velos and all that stuff were still good. He just didn't have the right approach, and he wasn't pulling the ball or lifting into the air as much as he used to. And then lastly, the guy had a shoulder surgery, which people don't like to talk about for some reason. So there were reasons for why Tatis at the plate had become very good instead of Ken Griffey Jr. But now it looks like that's back. He looks comfortable at the plate. He's having fun, and he's seizing on all the mistakes that pitchers make. And none of the home runs are flukes. So Tatis, man, he is carrying this team. I don't want to say actually not carrying, but because there's been a lot of other guys that have been producing. But he has been so unbelievable at the plate that I actually think that next year, could be like the full 40 home run season. That's what it's looking like right now. But as of right now, I'm astounded. I'm not shocked because of those reasons I just gave you, that it really feels like people were ignoring the other reasons outside the PED suspension for why maybe he wasn't the same astonishing bat. Still a great bat. 130 WRC plus is very good. Still a great bat, but not quite the MVP level bat that he was back in 2020, 2021, and to a degree 2019 as well. So shout out to Tatis, man. Jackson Merrill, though, mentioned him. He gets 2 home runs this weekend. Didn't have a full slate of great games, right? Friday, he goes 0 for 4. But on Saturday, 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs, a home run, and a walk. And then Sunday, yesterday, gets a solo shot. He is 6 home runs in August, and he's been phenomenal. He is 4th in expected weight on base in the second half among all qualified players. And in terms of overall just WRC plus, he's not quite there because because it's like his luck is kind of, starting to fight. He had like a bad luck and whatnot, but in terms of WRC plus in the second half, he's 16th with 151. These guys are both the reason that this Padres offense is, I think, going to be sustainable and going to be fantastic. I am just super, super thrilled with what I've seen from them. Manny Machado on Friday, he goes 2 for 4 with an RBI. And then on Saturday, he doesn't really get any hits, but he does draw 2 walks, which was nice. And then on Sunday, he gets he gets 1 hit and a walk. It's actually interesting about Manny Machado. His WRC plus is below 100 for a while now, past couple weeks. But over those past couple weeks, he's got about 250 or so batting average, 340 on base. He's just not slugging. And I think that that's going to continue. He does have 24 home runs this year. So Manny, he is in a slump, but I do like that we're just seeing him make contact again. Because that was the opposite of the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season, it was just, I knew how to hit home runs, but then nothing else. So now he's like, I know how to get base hits and walks, but nothing else. So I'm confident in him being a solid contributor going forward. Not confident about one guy. The only guy that hasn't been all that great for this Padres team for a while now. And maybe it's like, hey, he just had one good year and he's just a specialist bat, which is okay. He's still an above average at bat overall, but it's Gavin Sheets. He has a 112 had a 112 WRC plus in the first half, just a 67 in the second half. He's been really bad in terms of the fall off. And I think the big reason that I can attribute this to is maybe teams figuring him out a little bit, and the fact that he tinkered with his swing and decided, I'm selling out for power. I'm pulling everything to that right field part of Petco, and it just works there. But the bigger thing, lefties. He's always been bad against lefties. Let me be very clear. But he has a 33 WRC plus against them this year. That is genuinely unplayable. And I think that that's been a big reason for why Gavin Sheets has regressed this year. Because while he wasn't great against lefties last year, let me be very clear, he wasn't horrible, though. That was the key. Last year against lefties, he had an 89 WRC plus. That was the key, is that he stopped being a liability against them. This year, though, not so much. Look, but he's still a fine bat. I like that he could draw some walks sometimes, and he could put them into the seats. And he can also be really clutch. So, again, this isn't a giant issue. It's just one of the only offensive storylines that's not going well for the Padres, as well as Xander Bogaerts, who, oddly enough, actually does okay this weekend. Had a hit on Saturday. Actually has an RBI double in this one on Sunday with a walk. So, like, not terrible for him. Luis Rengifo continues to heat. Big RBI 2-run single for him in yesterday's game. Not much else to say. I think the last thing that I want to mention in terms of the offense, and also, by the way, 2 for 4 from Rengifo on Friday. Last thing I want to mention is that Campusano doesn't seem to play more these days. He's not getting as much play as maybe some people would like. He does get the start yesterday. He goes 0 for 3 with a walk. Doesn't quite get the hit. And then on Saturday, he gets brought into pitch hit for Gavin Sheets, and he does get a single and scores a run. I think that there is a little bit of a discussion to be had about maybe he should be playing more. But I think because the offense has been humming for so long, Freddie Fermin is just a lot better behind the plate. I think that's what it is. Campy's not quite a liability, not at least what he used to be. But in terms of Luis Campusano versus Freddie Fermin, Campy is in the 5th percentile of framing, -6 frames. He can throw out runners. He's good at not letting the ball get past him, but that's a big thing, is the framing hasn't been very good for him. While Freddie Fermin, his defensive stuff has been a lot better than Luis Campusano. And I think that's why the Padres are electing to play him more because they're like, hey, our offense is good. So let's have a guy who is in the 71st percentile of framing. He's in the 99th percentile of runners that he's throwing out. Blocks above average. He's in the 91st percentile too. He's actually been quite good defensively. This is a fine problem to have, though. But this is why Freddie Fermin is playing more, because he's been better behind the plate. And I think especially because the offense has been humming. So it's not like they're desperate to get a bat in there. And I think with Freddie Fermin, he's at least hitting 260 over the last 30 days. Not slugging, but he is hitting 260. He's able to at least not be anemic the way that he was, especially at the beginning of the season. So if you're wondering why KP isn't playing as much, that's why. But either way, I still love how they're using both of them for the most part. But yeah, baby KP deserves a couple more starts in there every now and then. But for right now, I like what I'm seeing. And this lineup, I don't see it changing anytime soon. And if it does change, it's only for the better, right? With Machado getting better potentially, and maybe with the return of a guy like Samad Taylor or Miguel Andujar, I just really love what I'm seeing, man. Go Pods. But before we answer some of your mailbag questions, guys, let's think. Today's sponsor, Amazon, and for especially this limited ad break, this back to school season, spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy the back to school shopping experience can be. Starts with a few items on the list, and then suddenly you're shopping for supplies and clothes and lunch gear and new calculators and the right first day outfit. And it adds up fast, man. Seriously, not to mention the growth spurt when it comes to the clothes. Your kid has a growth spurt 2 weeks later, and you're like, oh, great, right back to where I started. Sometimes it genuinely feels like they're growing faster than your budget can keep up. But guys, thanks to Amazon, they got you. Remember, with Amazon's low back to school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. And just like that, everybody, Javier Reyes here of Locked On Padres. You've been listening. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. And feel free to reach out, lockedonpadres@gmail.com, to have a chance to have your questions answered on the show. Just like our always favorite listener, Mr. Ramamurti, did this weekend. He says, hi, Javi. Hope you had a good weekend and got to enjoy your time off. I did. Absolutely. Here are my questions for Monday's show. Number one, has Fernando done enough lately to elevate himself into the MVP conversation, or is it still Ohtani and PCA? Look, if he had been doing what he's been doing now, yes, absolutely. And I think that he's going to be a guy, because of the second half, because of the changes he's made, that's going to be one of the preseason favorites to potentially win. I do. But in terms of total WAR, he's still 14th among all major league players, which is still great, especially because of how bad he was to start. But PCA, he's got 8.7, right? Like, it's going to be him. It's going to be him. He's been an amazing player this year. He's had walk-off wins, great moments. He's the best defender in baseball in a lot of ways. So no, it's still between PCA and Ohtani. But next year, he is going to once again be a guy that people consider, I think, for sure. Number two, what are the key points you want to hear from Jose Feliciano and Kwanzaa Jones from their press conference today? Great question. I don't really know what to look for, because people can give great press conferences, whether it be coaches, right? I remember famously, there's been some good press conferences before. They could be bad opening press conferences, and that won't reflect things. I think what I'd like to see is just a nice passion, just a good vibe, and just being like, cool, we bought this team and we're ready to contribute and spend. Maybe they won't say the word spend directly, because especially with the uncertainty of next season, but just good vibes I'd like to see. Just good vibes, something for us all to be excited about. It's a couple, right? That's kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe there's like a fun aspect to that'll produce and procure some really good vibes for this team. I don't know. But there's nothing I feel like we'll learn now from this press conference. Or maybe I'm just being cynical. Number three, is it just me, or should we let the Cubs and Phillies have the first and second wildcard slots so they battle each other while we deal with the division winner who doesn't get the bye? Love all your work, go Padres. Yeah, I wouldn't let them have anything. You just keep trying to have wins. I do think that the Padres, if they were able to face, I don't know who they would be slotted to face right now. I don't have the standings right in front of me. But if they were able to face, like, not the Dodgers, I'm not, like, terrified of the Braves, and I'm not terrified of the Brewers, especially the Brewers in a playoff series. The teams that I don't want to play, I kind of don't want to play the Cubs. I like that aura that team has right now, and I especially don't want to go against PCA and just an offense that really feels like they're just going to hit the crap out of you when the time counts. And Philadelphia, while their run differential and their overall season-long stats haven't been incredible, I don't want to go against that rotation. And this Padres team has suffered and gone really quiet against some great pitching before. And while the Phillies haven't been amazing in the postseason at home, I just still don't want to face that team. I really don't. So to me, yeah, I'd like to play the Braves or Brewers, but either way, the most important thing, man, is just making the playoffs. And actually, you had one other question. He says, is AJ Preller the best GM in baseball when it comes to dumpster diving for players? Last year it was Gavin Sheets, and this year we have Ty France, Luis Rengifo, Samad Taylor, and Walker Buehler. In the past, he found gems to fill out the bullpen. Love to hear your thoughts. Talked about this a little bit on Friday, but I don't want to say that he's the best GM in baseball because there are other teams out there like the Rays, right, that put together great offenses every other year, or at least often are able to procure great offenses with less of a budget to work with. While Preller, I feel like, has become a dumpster diver by like necessity. He's kind of had to do that because of all the money they've spent on a Xander Bogaerts, on a Cronenworth, et cetera, et cetera. I do think, though, that he's become a lot more overlooked in this aspect, particularly the last 3 years. 2024, 2025, and 2026. Because last year, like you mentioned, Gavin Sheets and also Nick Pivetta. That wasn't dumpster diving, but I'm just talking more about like the low-key moves that he's kind of forced to do because of all the money and all the prospects they've given up. I think he's succeeded pretty well. 2024, you saw Jerkson Profar, Donovan Solano. You got Kyle Higashioka as a nice contributor. And even, I believe it was, oh man, what was his name from 2024? Oh my God, I'm blanking out his name. He was a left fielder. He played on the D-backs for a long time. I'm looking it up right now. But he was a really solid bat for this team. David Peralta. There you go. He put together a 750 OPS for the Padres. This year, like you mentioned, it's Luis Rengifo picking him up after the Brewers, a smart organization, gave him up. And then you've had Ty France being really great. I don't think that they expected him to do this level of slug, right? But I think that they were like, you know what? Outside chance he's a 100 WRC plus player, and he's got the nice bonus of being a really good defensive first baseman. Although, quietly, guys, I don't know if you do this, Ty France, not the best defensively by the advanced metrics this year. Interesting, right? Again, I don't want to act like advanced metrics for defense are gospel, but, oh, actually, no, wait, he has been good. What am I saying? What, did I read that wrong? That's weird. Yeah, he has 12 defensive runs saved and 6 outs above average this year at first base. Man, guys, maybe I need to lock in more, but whatever. But as you mentioned with Walker Buehler, you have to also remember that there have been some dumpster diving things that he's done that haven't worked out, right? Giolito was a mess. Barely even played. He probably isn't coming back this year, right? Like he was just a cameo appearance, Lucas Giolito. Griffin Canning has not been very good. Kyle Hart has been inconsistent. You can look at Herman Marquez, disaster, right? They just haven't had a lot of great success in the pitching. But I do think, while he's not the best GM in baseball at that, I think he deserves a lot more credit because everyone loves talking about the big moves. They don't talk about how many small moves that they've made that have actually really worked out a lot. But not everybody feels great about AJ Preller. At Mike VQ says, the day AJ is relieved of his duties is the day this organization starts to move forward. Look, I've made it my stance on this podcast that I love AJ Preller. Love him. Do I think he's the right person for the job? I have made the case that I'd be either for or against that opinion. And what I mean by that is if you're someone that's like, hey, I look at that Soto trade and I say, we would have been so well set up. We would have had James Wood and CJ Abrams and no Bogarts, these young controllable players. You would have had Mackenzie Gore to at least just be a controllable, solid, okay, number 3 starter. Jarlin Susana, whatever you want to bring up. I get it. You know, Trey Turner, that trade that ended up being a disaster. I get it. But then I think just as much as you can blame him for some of the mistakes, the big contracts he's given out, why did you have to give that much money to Jake Cronenworth? Why did you give Xander Bogaerts that much money? I get it. But on the other side, you could also praise him for the fact that they've made the playoffs a bunch of times. This is a team that historically is not relevant, and I think that matters more. There's a difference between winning a championship for the New York Knicks versus winning a championship for the Boston Celtics. There just is. I'm sorry, like reshaping and fixing that is so much more impressive than fixing / getting the Boston Celtics on the right track, if that makes any sense. So you get a lot of comments on this channel, right? Where it's like, Reno San says, it's the Twins, and you're still down 9 games, LOL. Wild card should never be the expectation, but that's the difference between a winner and a ringless chicken dinner with the laughing emoji. Loser comment, right? Because Dodgers, they pretend that they went through stuff, right? Because they had an 8-year period where they only made the playoffs 5 times, but they didn't spend as much. Wow, the McCourt era is so horrible, right? And they've also been a top 10 spender in payroll rankings more or less every year over the last 40 years. Like, they've at least been there. Not always number one, not like they are right now. That is true. They weren't quite Yankees level, but they were relevant and always in there. The Padres, that's not the case. A relevant organization with some big players that everybody likes, with Trevor Hoffman, and obviously with Tony Gwynn. And you could dig deeper with Ken Caminiti, but especially those two guys. But other than that, not really a notable organization. So fixing that deserves a lot of credit. Making that an exciting team, making that a team that ranks in the top 5 in attendance over the last 6 years, and in some years outpaces other teams with bigger fan bases, like the Phillies, like the Mets, like the Yankees even, and also ends up getting sold for $3.9 billion. You deserve credit. It's totally different taking over the Dodgers versus taking over the Padres. It just is. And this team, to respond to that comment from that guy, sorry you don't have $7 billion worth to be able to spend on players every year. So what can I say? It's hard out here. Most teams aren't challenging the Dodgers for the division. Right? You'd have to bring in the Yankees or the Braves. It's hard. But anyway, I think that player deserves a lot of credit. I do. But I want to be very clear. I'm not against people who are like, I don't know, man. I think they should get rid of him. I think we should have someone new. I also understand that perspective. I genuinely, sorry, not to push, but that's how I feel about this. I really do. Last comment we got, which I thought was just very indicative of where we are right now, is just, I get a lot of comments about Craig Stammen. In all caps, fire Craig Stammen. He's a gap year coach for new ownership so they could get a new head coach next year, but fire him right now with multiple W's. I just don't think you can, because the team is doing well right now. He's made a lot of mistakes, but he's a rookie manager, so it's become to be expected. And again, back to the Preller thing, if you want to blame someone, you blame him for that, for hiring a rookie manager. Maybe this ends up being a guy who improves over time, because if this team continues this route, they're not going to fire him. So they'll have him next year, and maybe this is the beginning of a nice manager career for Craig Stammen. But I do agree that it's not like he's been impressive. I think he's made a lot of mistakes, especially with some of the bullpen things. I think especially with some of the lineup things, the placement in the lineup. But he's learning, he's trying, and I think that's the least of the Padres' problems, I think, when it comes to what's going to impede their progress winning. But we will see if this team makes the playoffs and he makes a mistake. We're all going to say, see, maybe you shouldn't have put a rookie manager in charge of a team that's trying to win now. You want to put them in charge of the A's? Fine. But for a team that's trying to win now, I get it. So really a lot of conflicting feelings from the listeners on that guy. What can I say? Hey, what can I say? It's been such a roller coaster this year. And we've got more comments that I want to respond to tomorrow, particularly about the Padres in the second half, how they've been so good. Tatis never being an MVP candidate, how I'm an idiot for saying that the Padres were going to have to sell at the deadline. All sorts of other comments. Feel free to leave your own in the comments below, or lockdownpadres@gmail.com. We're going to be recapping next the Pittsburgh Pirates, baby. Hopefully they can get on the right track. This is not a bad team. I know that they are not quite in the running right now at 63 and 69, but they have a positive run differential. They've got a decent rotation. This isn't like the American League teams that are bad. National League teams that are bad, record-wise, are a little bit better, I think, than the AL ones. So we'll see how this series goes. And then they've got one upcoming against the Rays, which we will have a crossover special for on Friday with my guy Ulysses Sembrano. And we're also trying to have Aram Layton on the show to talk prospects, Ethan Salas, all that jazz. Should be a lot of fun, guys. Don't touch that dial. Stay tuned to Locked On Padres, guys. And until that next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Locked On Friar Faithful homies. Take care.